Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today we're going to do a little detective work and we are going to try to figure out what watercolors are the same as other watercolors. Remember that Sesame Street? Was it Sesame Street? One of these things is not like the other. Well, some of these things are exactly like the other and we're going to get to the bottom of it today. I've gone through this in other videos when I've done reviews saying these paints are just like so-and-so and whatnot. So I thought I'd do it all together in one video so you could maybe determine if you're looking for a set of watercolors. Well, you can know if you already have it. Now, of course, I do not work for any of these companies. This is all my opinion, and I'm going to say allegedly throughout the video because I don't want to get in trouble. I'm just going to give you my observations. I am pretty informed when it comes to watercolors, and I definitely can spot the nuances between different sets. I probably wouldn't do this for other medias because I'm not as familiar with like say acrylic paints or oil paints or whatnot, but for watercolors I think I've got a pretty good handle of what is the same as something else. So let's start off with a few brands of watercolors that are very popular. We have got the Prima watercolor confections. I've got probably no, I don't have every set that they've come out with because I stopped getting the sets when they started to duplicate colors, and also when I realized who was making these paints, and then I just got the set of 48 so that I could have all the colors in one case. And I'm going to show you this here. This is the Mungio Professional Watercolor. Now, Mungio private labels products for a lot of different companies, and they do a lot of the Sargent Art stuff since like the 90s. I remember the Sargent Art watercolor crayons because I used to get them for my students, and then I've seen them come out from other different brands such as Jane Davenport and Mungio. Actually, you can get them from them as well. So this is a set of Mungio 48 watercolors. I have a review on these, and you can notice one of the ways I can kind of tell what I think are the similar brands is by looking at the texture of the pans. Are the pans extruded? These are extruded. You can see this almost gritty texture. That's not something that's very common, so whenever I see those craft brands with the gritty textures, it's kind of a giveaway that they are probably a Mungio made paint. These paints disperse very well, so if you're painting and you like a paint that goes whoosh across the paper, these are for you. These are not great for layering. They are a little bit more opaque than other brands. You can see in some of these colors how they look a little sludgy on the white. They're not bad. They're not, you know, like a gouache or anything, but they definitely are a little bit more opaque. And if you try to layer them up, they tend to lift. So this is good for those loose florals, loose landscapes, stuff where you're not going to be putting on a ton of layers. But if you know you like, say, the Prima watercolor confections, you will enjoy this, and then you'd have all the colors in one go, except for the pastel set. They sell that separately through Mungio, and it's actually cheaper to get it through Prima. This I've seen going for about $35 on Amazon. I think I paid closer to $50 a few years ago when I bought mine. And then the watercolor confections, they used to be about under $20, but now I think they're around $30 if I remember correctly, and you can find them at your like big box stores. So I think this was the last that I got, the shimmering lights, and I think all of the pastel, the watercolor confections from Prima were sent to me from different outlets for promotion. Some were sent from Prima, some were sent from different shops. But you can kind of see that similar texture on there. There are more metallics here than what's in the 48 set. You can also get the metallic set from Mungio. Actually, I've added extra pans in some of these to like flesh out the sets a little bit. But when these first came out, a bunch of us were buying them for the tins because you couldn't just get the plain set of tin of 12 for a reasonable price. They would be like $50 just for an empty tin, and we were finding these on Amazon for like $15. So a lot of us were snagging these tins up, these watercolor confections up just for the tins. So that's why you'll see them in a lot of people's videos from a few years ago. And the thing I did like about the Prima tins is that you had enough space down the center to put extra tins. So that's what I did. I put extra pans in mine to make them a little useful. I really like the Decadent Pie tins, which are what you see on the edges there, the Decadent Pie colors, because they were really great for landscapes and portrait, like if you go plein air painting or go to a Leaf drawing group. Let's see, I wrote on the end what they were because I keep them on their ends in a box here, and it's just handy for me. This is a pastel set. Obviously, just on the edges, I put something different in the center. I actually put gouache in the center because these are so kind of opaque. I mean, you can still see the lines. But, yeah, if you like the Prima watercolor confections, check out Mungio. Now, there's other craft brands that use this, that allegedly use this company to do their paints. And that would be the Jane Davenport watercolors, which are Paint Till You Faint, I think they're called. And one thing I will warn you, though, if you live in a humid environment, I wouldn't store them on their edges because sometimes they want to migrate. So that did happen with that one. But essentially, you're getting the very same behaving colors. So I would go with whatever colorway you like the most. I really like this one too, the Neutrals palette from Jane Davenport. It's really nice for portraits. I did add a pan of alizarin crimson there, permanent alizarin crimson for skin tones, but it's a really nice, it's a nice set. A lot of times I'll flip them over so that they can travel back into their pans when they go out. And another brand that I found was also doing that is also an American Crafts brand. Jane Davenport is from American Crafts, that line of paints anyway. And that would be the Paper Fashions paints. Those also. And you'll recognize the texture, you'll recognize some of the colors. And so essentially, if you had this Mungio set of 48, that would duplicate pretty much anything from Prima, Jane Davenport, Paper Fashion. I think the Studio Light, their watercolors like the Art of Marlena. I don't have those, but I think they're also Mungio paints. So Shimmering Lights has more metallics than there is in the Mungio 48, and the pastel colors are not in the 48 set. But other than that, man, I stopped getting them because they were the same paints. And pigment code wise, pigment information is available out there, and they did match up that way too. So, so that was that was actually the first brand I found that had similar colors. I'm actually going to put them all in the opposite way now so that they don't splurp out of their tins. I hope this is the opposite way. I think I had them in this way. Alright, so the next one that I found were dupes. I actually did a whole video on this, so you can go check that out. But Phoenix Watercolors, they are the same in the half pans. The Phoenix half pans are the same as Winsor & Newton Cotman. Winsor & Newton had started having their Cotman line of paints made. This is my old set, my old American set with the full pans. Started having their paint made in China a few years ago. They used to be made in France for the Cotman line. And I believe Phoenix makes them because their pigment codes match, their brochures are even in the same order, and just lay down color to color, they're the same. So allegedly, they look the same to my experienced eyes. So if you wanted to get the Cotman paints, but maybe you didn't want the plastic tin, they have them in a metal tin, and you actually get 8 extra colors because that's a set of 45, but 5 are duplicates. I took those out and put them in the Prima tins. So you actually get 8 different unique colors here that are not in the Winsor & Newton line, and you can tell what ones are not Winsor & Newton colors because they don't have light fast information on them. So, but they all have pigment information, which I really like. And if you like Cotman quality paints, that's a great option. And there's a couple others that I think are also identical, and that would be, and I keep the boxes honestly mostly just because it's easier to store them. I stack them on a shelf, and they don't slide around if I keep the boxes. I didn't remember, like, I only came to that realization after a certain point in my journey, so I have a lot of things that aren't in cases that kind of wobble. These cases remind me of the White Knight ones too, but they're not quite as wide. So other ones that are also similar to that are the Maya watercolors. And I'm trying to think if there was another one. I was all organized, but then I think I moved some stuff around. I also believe that these Maya watercolors, which are about $20, are the same. They swatched out the same surface texture, same colors. There's not any pigment information or anything on these, but when I compared them side by side, they seem to be the exact same brand. So a lot of these companies that you see popping up on Amazon and even popping up on boutique shops like on Instagram and whatnot, they are private label. They don't make their own paints. They order them. They choose colors and have them put into a palette, and they go to a factory that's already been making paints because it's much more affordable and they don't have to do the research and development because that's what costs the money. That's why your legacy brands that have in-house factories and in-house scientists and chemists and everything, that's why it's more expensive. They're doing all that research to make sure they have a unique product, and that's not the case with these private labeled ones. Okay, another one that I've touched on my YouTube channel before is the Superior branded paints. So there's a lot of paints out there that are allegedly made by Superior. And these are the half pan sets that I have that are, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. We're in the old space. Do you recognize it? I think I like the audio in here better, but I don't like the lighting so much because I get some glare. The Superior half pan sets, I recently reviewed the Art Whale set here. That's probably the newest one that I got. And this is, I didn't know, I didn't know that these were going to be Superior paints. Not that I have anything against it, but I was just really curious. So I bought these. There's a few colors here that I think are kind of bummers and make the whole set seem worse than it is. So I don't recommend this set unless you like all the colors in it. What I do recommend is the Doodle Hog set of 36 or the Artsy set of 24 because they're both cheaper. Like this one I think is about $35. And I got it on sale for $25, so I don't feel too badly about it. Plus I have a tin that I can reuse. I would recommend the Artsy set of 24 if you like, if you like that paint. This is like 20 bucks, but it's often coupons to make it even lower. Same paints, same, yeah, I think they're good. I think they're good for that. Or the best value would be the Doodle Hog set of 36. Now, the Doodle Hog set of 48 are different, and we'll get to that when we get to those because they're like something else. But the 36 set, for whatever reason, they decided to use these paints, and they're much better. And you have room for extra things in your tin if you want. But, yeah, the only downside with these Superior half pans is that they can tend to flake. You see that? It's really weird. And you'll see it in the other ones they have too. Some palettes do it worse than others. I don't know if maybe when I put it away last time I used it, it was much drier and then the humidity made it do that. I'm not sure, but they all eventually, when they get older, they sit unused, they will get that flaky texture to them. It's kind of strange. But that's another giveaway that it's a Superior brand paint because it will get that flaky surface texture to it. And I also think that the Altenew set, and those I think are like 13 bucks, that set of 36, so that's why it's the best value. This, yeah, so cheap. Definitely worth it. I would recommend that for like teenagers that want to get into watercoloring, or maybe they want to set for a vacation or a trip or something and you're afraid they might lose their higher quality. Now I love the tin the Altenew used here, but I believe their paints are also the Superior paints. Work the same. They're starting to get that flaky texture to them. They seem to be the same to me, and this set I think is around $50, which at the time I thought it was actually, for the quality of the paint, pretty good, but then I started finding these other very similar sets, and then I realized, oh, I think that they're the same. So again, like I said, it's all alleged, but going from my experience in watercolor, I think you can trust me, but hey, you know what, that's all I'm going to say. So now we're getting into the novelty palettes from Superior, and you've probably seen these advertised a bazillion times on, see, this is the same thing. Even the numbers are the same, you know, C06, C06, you know, same thing. They come in lots of cute little designs. They're a lot of fun. Like this is one that folds out. They're all just a little bit different, but the paints, the color codes, all the same. So those are all made by Superior, and you'll see them under so many different brands on Amazon. There's even a bigger fold-out one from Artify. So we've got Artify, Artsy, Prestigify, Superior. That one even says Superior on it, but I bought it under the Meeden brand when I ordered it because I was seeing them advertised on Instagram for like 50 bucks for these fan palettes. I thought it looked so cool that I'm like, oh, I wonder if I can find that on Amazon. And I could. I paid $20 and then the price went down to like $12 or something. But actually the paint's decent. I really enjoy this paint, and there's nothing wrong with it. Just like, don't pay 50 bucks. Shop around. See, you know what else you can find. So those are all like the Superior paints. They're fun. They're novel. They're decent paint though, and I can't be mad at that. The next one we're going to look at is going to look familiar because it's another Doodle Hog set. Now this, I purchased this for $15. I just couldn't resist it. It was, I don't know, I was curious. I get so curious over these budget sets, and I'm always looking for that diamond in the rough because, you know, I like to find frugal options for people that are going to perform well and not break the bank. And, these, I thought for 15 bucks, not bad, because you got a tin, you got 48 half pans, even if you don't keep the paint. I mean, I figure that's pretty fair, a pretty fair price. But something seemed very familiar to me, and one of those things was the smell. And this is a pretty strong chemically smell to it. So for that, I would kind of almost urge you to stay away from it, but it's identical too. And I've rearranged my pans, so I always rearrange the pans into a more suitable order for me. They're identical to the Master's Touch from Hobby Lobby. So if you have those, I would skip these because they're the same. Of course, these you can get on sale for 20 bucks, and that was like $15.99. I think the price went up since then, but yeah, they reek. They both reek. I have had them closed up, and I just opened them up and I was like, whew, yes. When I smell that smell, it's like, that is that same type of paint. So the Doodle Hog 48 is not the same as the Doodle Hog 36 rather. I mean, for 15 bucks, get a tin with 48 half pans. I mean, empty, they cost more than that. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's a bad deal, but then you got something to do with that paint, and it's okay. You can paint with it. It's you know, it's kind of similar to Mungio, where it's, you know, not really great for layering. It'll lift. I don't know. It didn't disperse as well as the Mungio, but it was a heck of a lot cheaper. It was, you know, half the price. So those two are the same. The next one we're going to look at is one I really like, and that is the student grade from Naviska Palitra, the makers of White Knights, and this is the Sonnet set. And I think they actually have, they have another student grade that's on this. They market these to different, they use different names, different companies they market it to. So like White Knights and Yarka St. Petersburg are their artist quality, and they marketed the Yarka St. Petersburg to America and the White Knights to Europe. And they have another one, I think might be called Lagoda. I'm not sure. They have one they market more to Russia, I think. But this is a Sonnet set, and I really think these are a bargain. These are great. I think it's around 20 bucks. Actually, it might be less now because it was about 20 bucks when I got mine. Mine were sent to me by Pro Art Supplies, which is an Etsy seller that sells the White Knights products. And then recently, Paul Rubens sent me their set of student full pans, and I'm like, wait a minute. Those look just like the Sonnets. Now the pans are a little bit bigger on the Paul Rubens, but the color codes are identical. The layout of the palette is identical. They look the same in their pan. Oops, I gotta turn that way. They look the same in their pans, and they swatch out identically next to each other. So I think that Paul Rubens might have had the Naviska Palitra company. Naviska Palitra, I don't know. I'm sorry to anyone watching this that speaks Russian. I totally butchered that. But I think they might have private labeled, you know, had them make this set for them to their specifications. And they put it in a really cute tin, which I like. But yeah, it seems to be identical. Identical paint, identical numbers. White's 100, 227 Hansel Lemon, 220 Yellow Medium, 221 Yellow Deep, same light fastness ratings and everything, right down the line. And I think it's more likely that Paul Rubens had them private labeled than they, you know, stole the recipe, because how could that be? It'd be much more profitable just to have somebody else make them for you. So those two appear to be identical to me in use and appearance. And then there's a few that that I have, a few bargain sets that I have that I cannot figure out where they come from. And I'll show you those too, because I find it very interesting. Maybe you guys know where these come from. Now, I was kind of hoping that the meat-in pans were going to be great when, and these were sent to me to review along with their tubes and one of their palettes. I loved their palette, their empty palette, but it was like a foam style palette, F-O-M-E. But the pans, I have to say, I like them better than the tubes, but they didn't knock my socks off. They don't smell, though. There's no odor coming from them. They're, you know, they're a budget brand. I would say they're a lower quality than our student grade watercolors that we're used to, such as Cotman or Grumbacher Academy or Van Gogh or Le Petit Aquarelle by Sennelier. These are definitely a budget brand. They're a lower quality, same as like the Master's Touch Doodle Hog 48 set. You know, I definitely put them below our student grade as more of a budget brand. These I think sold for around $25, $30, so there's better options at that price. And but I don't know where these come from. I don't know what these are like. They almost look like they would be similar to the Superior ones or the Phoenix ones, but they were just a little more chalky, a little more syrupy when you added water to them. A little, just kind of chalky, just not that impressive to work with. But maybe I'll have to have another go with them and see if I can find some redeeming qualities. They were okay, but there's just better options for that price. So I couldn't figure out where the Meadens fit in, where they were coming from, because Meaden does private label a bunch of different products, like the fan palette from Superior and other palettes and things. So I'd be curious to figure out where those come from. Another one I couldn't figure out that I liked a little bit more than the Meaden, actually, because they don't like knock your socks off when you're swatching them, but I found painting with them to be quite lovely, and that would be the Pago set of 36. And now I thought they might be similar to the Meaden because surface texture on the pans, they looked similar, but you know, they just I don't know, I didn't feel like there was enough of a similarity there to say they're similar. So I mean, there's some colors that are similar. I don't know, to me, and that was before I reviewed that before I started to do glazes on things. I just still didn't find a similarity, although some of the colors are quite similar, like that that apricot color, the Pepto-Bismol pink. I don't know though. I couldn't find them to be similar enough to correlate them as being the same. Another one that I think I've seen some cheap sets coming out that might be the same as these, but to be frank, I didn't really care for the Arteza pan watercolors very much. Their tubes are better, but their tubes don't dry down very well in pans. If you're going to use your tubes, you kind of need to use them fresh. And I think there's better options out there, frankly, like the Artware tubes. But these, was the 12 set that I dried down in pans. I had to put a ton of glycerin in them to get them to stay. But they're much more vibrant, and I like them much more. The other colors in this 36 set are just strange. They're odd. There's no real good ultramarine. That's why I ended up putting that middle row in there, because there was no good ultramarine. It was just really kind of, they painted fine for certain techniques, but I just found them to be kind of gritty and kind of full of filler and optical brighteners, and just kind of, they just seemed weak, and I just didn't really like them, and I don't have any other paints that are just like them. So I kind of like to have these around, because I like to do this kind of like investigative work and figure out what's what. But yeah, the Artezas, I couldn't figure out what the Artezas were similar to, so that one stumped me. And let's see what else. Another one that I couldn't find another similar one to was the Pretty Excellent by Paul Rubens. So I think those are being made in-house by Paul Rubens. They are unique. They are very vibrant. They are my pick. They are my budget watercolor pick. I think it's really tough to get a good transparent color, except for the lavender. That one's not transparent, but that's also a color that you see in the Paul Rubens line. These are a fantastic paint. It's really hard to go wrong with them, and I highly recommend them if you're looking for a student set. That's my pick. If somebody says, I need to get a student set, what do I pick? And I say, the Pretty Excellent. I mean, 20 bucks. Totally worth it. 36 half pans. And sometimes the other ones go on sale. Like, I like all the ones that are similar to the Cotmans. I like all the ones that are similar to, that are the Superior ones for equivalent. But I think these are a hair better. And yeah, if you're on the fence, go for these. Sometimes they go on sale as low as like $16, but they're worth it at 20. They'd probably be worth it at, 30 even. They're a good bet. And I haven't seen any other dupes like that. I'd say the Sonnet ones are probably the most similar, but I feel like the Pretty Excellent just has a more nuanced palette. It's I just prefer it. I feel like you can glaze better with it. It's just good for all occasions. Now this one right here, I don't have any other ones of the same kind, and I've never seen it as cheap as I could get it at Job Lots for $4.99. But the Phoenix watercolor tablets, these I would highly recommend to teachers. You could take the tablets out, and you can I just dropped it on the floor. You could take them out, you can rearrange them, you could give a couple to each kid if you're teaching a class. These are fantastic. I actually bought a set, and I thought, when am I going to use these? I liked them, but I gave them away to a friend with a preschool, and I rebought them because, man, they're just so fun. They're full of, they're full of optical brighteners, but man, they are punchy, they are bright, they are just a blast to paint with, and the quality is really quite good. $5, can't beat it. These are also sold under the Lucas brand name and under Arteza and probably a bunch of others. You can look for this Telltale palette, and you'll know that it's kind of area around it. They're a little chalky, you can wipe your fingers on them, but they're actually pretty decent, and I like them. I like them a lot better than the Grumbacher ones that are so expensive and not nearly as much color in them. So that's one you'll see around. Oh, here's another one I couldn't figure out. I could not figure out where the Art and Fly fits in. I haven't seen another equivalent to these. They're interesting. They remind me actually a lot of the Gansai Tambi. watercolors. If you wanted that type of paint in a larger palette, in a larger selection of color but smaller pans, I would recommend them. I thought they might be like the Sakura Koi, but the Sakura Koi is much more of a matte. It's got a matte finish to the paint. It's definitely a little more chalky than the Art and Fly, and the Koi disperse a little bit better, I think, in my opinion, than the Art and Fly. But these definitely remind me of the Gansai Tambi, so if you like that type of paint. And another one that's similar to Gansai Tambi is the Mozart Komarebi set. They're kind of sticky, actually. These are actually quite sticky, kind of like the White Knights or the Kanem. They do have an odor. It's not as bad as like the Master's Touch, but they do have they're sticky and they have a bit of a smell to them. They might have an animal hide glue as a binder, in that like other Gansai colors, because these are a Japanese paint, although it says made in China, I'm pretty sure. Yep, made in China, responsibly made in China, but a Komarebi is supposed to be a Japanese type of paint. But oh boy, it does have an odor to it. I'm not that sensitive to it. It doesn't really bother me, but if you are sensitive, I would probably avoid those for that reason. But I haven't seen another set that's just like those either. But that's the full extent of my investigative reporting today. Another reason it's nice to keep the outside cardboard boxes for these is because there's never any information of where the product is made on the tins themselves. It's always on the outside boxes. So as I've gotten further on this journey and further down these rabbit holes, I found that I want to know the country of origin. Like Mungyo stuff is usually made in Korea, and that's another giveaway that something was probably made by Mungyo if it was made in Korea, and it looks like a bunch of other you know, similar private labeled stuff. And I like Mungyo made products, so it doesn't mean that it's bad that it's white labeled. It just means you might already have the thing that you're like pining for on Amazon, or because you saw a review, you might actually already have it just branded under a different name. And you know, I don't want you to buy the same thing twice unless you want to. So be informed. It's fun. It's kind of fun. If you know any other ones that are made by the same companies, or if you have any insight to where those Meeden ones are made, or who makes any of the other ones I didn't know about, please let me know in the comments below. Any speculation is fine. Like I said, I don't work for any of these companies. I'm just a watercolor lover. I love art supplies. I love testing them out and bringing you the information. And hey, let me be honest, friends, I like collecting these cute palettes because they're just adorable. They spark joy, and and they're fun to use. They're fun to have, they're fun to use, right? Well, guys, thanks so much for watching. This coat is out by request to all of my Sat Chat friends who asked for this video, and I hope you have an amazing day. Thanks for watching. Until next time, happy crafting.